Hello, everybody. Very good morning.
नमस्कार सर.
Very good morning. Namaskar ji, Purbayan ji,
वेरी गुड
कैसे हैं आप?
मॉर्निंग. एकदम एंड हैप्पी वसंत पंचमी. हैप्पी सरस्वती पूजा.
Yes, it's a very, very auspicious day for all of us, right from north to south, and especially for music, because Saraswati happens to be the god for music. And
Absolutely.
if you permit, Purbayan ji, I will start with a shloka on Saraswati.
Please sir, please. Nothing more
Ya
auspicious.
kundendu tushara hara dhavala, ya shubra vastravrita, ya veena varadanda manditakara, ya shweta padmasana, ya brahmachyuta shankara pravruti devai sada vandita, samam patu saraswati bhagavati, nisyesha jadyapaha. In
Wow.
short, this roughly means the one who is attired in absolute white clothes, the one who has a beautiful veena, not a sitar, on her laps, and the one who is revered even by the three main gods, which is Shiva, Vishnu, and Brahma. And
Yes.
such goddess, we offer our pranams, and it's indeed a pleasure to have Purbayanji, who plays an instrument which is very close to Veena. In fact, Veena is the origin for all these instruments, and it's indeed a pleasure that a young wizard of Sitar is with us on the Basant Panchami day, and we all offer our prayers to Goddess Saraswati. So with that, Purbayanji, if you permit, I will make some initial remarks, and then we go on to the chat.
Absolutely sir. The pleasure and privilege is all mine, and thank you for having me for this chat on this very auspicious day, and very happy to be part of this chat. So please continue sir.
Super. As all of you would know, InSync TV happens to be the world's largest platform for the Indian classical music. We offer Hindustani, Carnatic, Ghazal, Sufi, fusion, and all genres of Indian music. And it is normally understood that India is the origin of good structured music, while many other countries offer music. But when you talk of the musicology evolved in this country in terms of defining the various instruments, in terms of defining how they are to be handled, in terms of even defining the time period when the ragas are to be rendered. So India offers a huge basket of information and science on classical music. And we have two major streams, the Hindustani music and the Carnatic music, and the InSync TV through its Instagram live, which is held every Saturday. We invite one stalwart either from the Hindustani or the Carnatic stream and try to engage them into an interesting conversation, not necessarily on music, but also on the other aspects which are related to music. And we have had almost 20 stalwarts who have already engaged with us on this initiative. And today we have Purbayan Chatterjee, and I must tell you, this is a very unique day because every stalwart that we have kind of engaged in the conversation, but there is no stalwart who received a president's medal at the age of 15. So that puts Purbayanji into a completely different bracket. And we have a child prodigy in the true sense of the term. It is not that the prodigy just did some interesting things to the elders, but he really played Indian classical music to such an extent that the highest office of this country acknowledged his talent and offered him a medal at the age of 15. So with that, Purbayanji, let me get into your childhood, your evolution time, right up to the age of 15 when you received this President's Award.
So, as with most of us, as you very correctly mentioned, this Indian classical music, it's a bit of a, mystic path that we all go down on because, first of all, it's an oral tradition. It's passed down from guru to shishya. As an oral tradition, we don't have prescribed textbooks. I mean, you have prescribed textbooks which you can study if you are studying it as an academic field, but as a performer, it's all like word of mouth. And your guru, my father, who is my guru, he started me off at the age of 3 with vocal music, and it's all taught just by word of mouth, and from the age of 3 to 5, I did only vocals. When I was 5 years old, I was given my first sitar, which I was too small to hold actually. So there are photos of me trying to reach the top like this because it was,
I can
too big
visualize.
for me. Yeah.
Possibly you had to stand to hold the sitar.
Almost. And then within a very short period, I was given a full size sitar. So I was initially given a child sitar for only, I think, 2 weeks or something, and then given a full size sitar. So I started, trying my hands with it. And there were all these days when I would cry. And, my father was a very patient guru, but at the same time, very firm and very intimidating for a child. So, and I'm glad he was that way because he was a disciplinarian and a perfectionist, and I didn't have a choice. So he never screamed at me, never scolded me, but he would just sit and say, "You have to do it till you get it." And really, that is the only way, for everybody who is a student of music. Even to this day, for me as a student of music, when I want to learn some new music, and because, I would like to highlight the fact that all traditions of music are great. There are there is jazz, which is highly intellectual and highly difficult, highly evolved tradition of music. There is Western classical music. There is Baroque music. There is Oriental forms of music. There is gamelan music from Indonesia. There are taiko drums in Japan, and every form of music has its own path that you have to go down on. Everything has what we call paddhati. It's just like when you learn meditation, different forms of meditation have different. You need a guru. You need a sadguru who is going to guide you on the path. So, for me, as a classical musician, I had to go down that path. I had to go down the structured path, till your guru decides one day that now you can be set free, and you can start exploring your own path and trying to find your own path. So for a long time in my life, I'm grateful that my dad was the taskmaster who said you have to do it till you get it. And that golden dictum applies to all of us, no matter how old you are and how senior you are in the field. You are still a student, and you still need to follow the dictum that you have to do it till you get it.
Very interesting anecdotes of your childhood. Well, let me check with you. Sitar is an instrument where you need to adjust a lot of strings and adjust the pitch of each of the string. And as a
Yes,
child,
yes, sir.
it must have been extremely challenging to understand, grasp the situation of the pitches and adjust accordingly. So obviously, your father must have given you the inputs in terms of possibly an adjusted sitar for you to play on it. Or how did that journey happen? Did you tune it yourself, or your father tuned it for you and you played it and he taught you? How did that magic happen?
So let me tell you, with your permission, sir, let me demonstrate a little bit. I have my sitar right here. I kept it
Please,
handy. So
please.
for the viewers or those who are joining this live. So first of all, I have to tell you a little story that when my father went to learn from Pandit Nikhil Banerjee, who is his guru, he expected that Nikhil ji will tell him, okay, now play something, and but wo sab hone ke pehle, first he gave him a completely out of tune sitar, and he said, okay, now tune it. So that is the first test for anybody. Now
Yeah.
in the sitar we have, the thing is, when you strum a tuned instrument, you feel good instantly. If everything is in proper tune, everything is, and that stems to a large extent from the Western concept of harmony. Because if you see, there are thirds and fifths here, and then you have the sympathetics, which are tuned to a particular raga. Now, just as I strummed it, I noticed that this ga is a little down.
Off.
So you distune it and constantly refer to the sa, which is the tonic, and keep tuning it. Like this is tuned to Rag Nat Bhairav because I was, playing something with my students in the morning because it is Saraswati Puja day. Also, if it's tuned, you will hear the tarafs vibrate in resonance. So everything has to sound like it's properly in tune and properly in balance. Then only people will enjoy it.
Uh, you kind of deflected my question. My question was, like somebody said, if you want to give a capital punishment to somebody, put him next to a person with a completely out of pitch sitar, and the guy
Correct.
will commit suicide. So coming back to the question, my question was, your father, did he tune all the strings, and the main strings were then tuned by you, or he would even ask you to completely tune the sympathetic strings as well, and also the main string? So in sitar, if I understand rightly, the challenge actually is more in terms of tuning as much as it is in playing.
So from day one, it was my dad's goal to make me tune on my own. So I was
Great.
given this discipline that every day, even if it is a tuned sitar, you have
Okay.
to distune it and tune it. और
Okay.
रियाज का आपको जितना उसके बाद वक्त मिलेगा आप रियाज करो जरूर करो, but
Yeah.
have this discipline of tuning your instrument every day. In fact, this is one of the things, I must remember late Pandit Birju Maharaj ji, who has just left us. I went to attend one of his master classes, which he held a talk, and a master class in Pandit Hari Prasad Chaurasia ji's Gurukul in Vrindavan,
Wonderful.
here in Bombay. And he said that मुझे कभी कभी रियाज का जब मन नहीं करता था,
Hmm.
मैं पान वाले के पास चला जाता था. He would go
अच्छा.
to the पान वाला, and जो भी मैंने कंपोज किया,
हाँ.
एक आध कॉम्पोजिशन मैं पान वाले को 10 रुपया का पान 20 रुपया दे के खरीद के एक आध कॉम्पोजिशन उनको सुना देता था, इसलिए
वाह.
कि गैर हाजिरी ना लगे, गैर हाजिरी. So this is something which all the great masters have said that, see, रियाज का कभी बहुत मन होता है. You might feel like practicing 4-5 hours a day, and sometimes you might not feel like practicing that much, but take your sitar, tune it, clean it up. थोड़ी देर आप बजाओ, just keep your connection with the instrument, keep your connection with the swaras intact. वो बहुत जरूरी है. हर दिन जो भी स्वर है, स्वर और लय, these are the two basic things. थोड़ा उन लोगों के लिए प्यार दिखाना चाहिए, थोड़ा सेवा. It's like a loved one, like our parents. Like, I don't get a chance to see my parents. I live in Bombay, they live in Kolkata. लेकिन हर एक रेगुलर इंटरवल पे हम लोग उनके साथ बात करते हैं, पूछते हैं कैसे है आप लोग, कुछ चाहिए, कुछ सेवा कर सकते हैं. So swar and tal are like this. You have to show your love for them every day.
Superb. Excellent explanation to bring out a great spirit of music, the philosophy of music in such a simple language. But having talked of the tuning of the sitar, the tonic, the shadja, which is the starting point for anything. Normally, in case of sitar, do you normally have Pandri Ek as the pitch, or is it Kali Don, or how? What is the normal method?
So my pitch is D, which I think is Safed Do. Sitar is tuned in Safed Do, which is D. I think I hope I get my Indian harmonium. I know D is D, but Safed Do, I think D is Safed Do. And
D
Kali
is
Do, I
Safed
think,
Do. C
yeah,
sharp D. Yeah, of
yeah,
course.
D is Safed Do. And
Correct.
then it can go up to Kali Do also, which is D sharp, I
Okay.
believe.
Yeah.
But and it can, ideally for a good pitch and timbre of the instrument, it can be anywhere between C sharp and D sharp. But I prefer mine in D, where I get a nice resonant tone. I get all the sympathetics vibrating in resonance. And I'm sorry I'm hijacking this live and taking this chance to play, but it's Saraswati Puja, and
No.
I'm
Most
really.
welcome. Most welcome.
तो ये जो the whole nice resonant and yet taut kind of tone, the sitar should not sound like loose, but at the same time it shouldn't sound too tight also, so that
Yeah.
there is, because मीन का जो जगह है, जैसे ये जो resonance है, ये खराब नहीं होना चाहिए। और उसके लिए मेरा जो सितार है, ये जो हिरन रॉय का बनाया हुआ सितार है, and this is actually made by Hiren Roy. It's a very old sitar which was given to me as a gift by one of my father's students, Peter from Switzerland. And तो इसमें जो रेजोनेंस है वो डी में सबसे अच्छा बोलता है, सो डी में ही रखते हैं ट्यून।
So the next question, in a
जी।
single pull, how many notes can you handle in that short time when it is audible? So when you
राइट।
pull the strings, how many notes can you fill into that? Because that's a big challenge. And how do you do it?
So it's a very good question actually. So the thing is, when you in an ideally maintained sitar जिसका proper जवारी है, ये जो bridge है ना, bridge का जो जवारी है, जो leveling है, वो सही रहे, so you should be able to pull 5 notes, like 5. This is how it should be. So,
Wow.
and it should be smooth also, like माँ से सा तक गए. To do complex ornaments like this, बात क्या है ना, आपको लेफ्ट हैंड का जो प्रेशर है उसको बरकरार रखना पड़ेगा. आपने सो ये जो इस टाइप का ऑर्नामेंट लेने के लिए ना, प्रेशर राइट एंड लेफ्ट हैंड, राइट हैंड का पंच और लेफ्ट हैंड का प्रेशर. Somebody is asking a question. In fact, I just quickly want to mention that a couple of my younger brothers who are fabulous artists, Mehtab Bhai ka maine dekha, and he said adab and hi, and he's a fabulous artist. Somebody is asking how I managed to play with other artists in other scales. So, baat kya hai? There's always a compromise. If I'm playing with a sarod player, then I'll have to tune down to sort of C sharp, between C sharp and C, and the sarod player has to come up to, depending on whatever is their original pitch, which is the reason why duets are only effective when you play it with a compatible instrument and a compatible gharana also, somebody whose music
And
you
also a
understand.
compatible pitch. Also a compatible pitch.
वही तो दो इंस्ट्रूमेंट में compatibility तब होता है जब when those two instruments can come. So duets are slightly a restrictive thing, and but if you're playing with other genres, for instance, if I'm playing with jazz music, or if I'm playing with, so udhar there are some things that we can do. For instance, ये हो गया D से सारे गा मा पा धा नि सा, ये हो गया C से. Okay, so ये हो गया B फ्लैट से, ये हो गया A से. तो ये I would recommend to all younger musicians that you learn all this. थोड़ा सा अपने आप को flexible आप बनाओगे, then you can, because if you're going to play with Western harmony especially, then you have to have this flexibility and be able to get into different, and we can do the interpretation in terms of ragas or in terms of saregama, but you should have the flexibility to go into other scales and pitches.
No, but then the sympathetic strings thing goes for a toss if you're really not that evolved.
Yes, you're very right, and then you have to kind of play in a manner that you don't worry about so you won't have, maybe on some notes, the tonic, so you have to tune it according to, even in Western music there are modes, like if there is a like a Phrygian mode, which is Bhairavi. This is a Phrygian mode, so you can tune the sympathetics accordingly, and although you can hit some other notes, but generally if you stay within, at least the thirds and the fifths will sound, the resonance will
Excellent.
work.
That went a little intricate aspect of sitar playing. But coming back to your life journey, your father trained you only in sitar, or was also for the vocal music?
So my father took me at a very young age to Pandit Ajay Chakravarti ji to learn, because I was a big fan of his and I used to listen to his music a lot. So my father took me to him, so I could learn some bandishes. So I spent some time learning some vocal bandishes from him, and I still, when I get a chance, I learn a thing or two. I also had a chance of hanging out with several great, percussionists. One of them is Pandit Anindo Chatterjee at a very young age. I traveled with him and he taught me so much about tabla, even compositions. Later on, and of course, ever since I was a kid, I was a big fan, like everybody else, of Ustad Zakir Hussain Saab. So I have learned so many things from Zakir Bhai, which took me many years to understand. He told me small things like, he said, why do you think people like Ali Akbar Khan Saab or Nikhil Banerjee or Vilayat Khan Saab or Ravi ji are who they are? And why do you think? Is it because of how they play? Is it because of what they play? So things like that. And then, of course, I knew better not to answer the question because I knew I had to hear the answer from him. And he told me it's because of how much conviction they play with. And to this day, these kind of things resonate in my mind. And he's taught me things about upaj. He's taught me how to, when I've had the chance of playing with him, a few times, and he's taught me what is upaj, how to be in the moment and how to be spontaneous, and why that is the most important aspect of our music. Later on, I have had a lot of chance to work with and be very closely mentored by a few other people, who I would like to mention. Shankar Mahadevan ji is one of them, very important influence in my life. I love the way he approaches the music, and I've been on stage with him so many times. I've had a chance to learn a lot. Louis Banks, the great jazz pianist, India's godfather of jazz. I've had a chance to hang out with him, play with him, learn so many things about, Western harmony and etc. from him. Ranjit Barot ji, who is a fabulous drummer. Ranjit Barot and Taufik Bhai, both of these people I have worked with and learned a lot of things about pockets, about grooves and pockets. As a musician, it is very important that you have a well-rounded view of different musical cultures. क्योंकि क्या होता है ना, it's very easy to become myopic in your vision, and very easy to say that because we are upholding a tradition, and we must do that job well. We must remain true to our roots. We must remain true to our identity, because that is the only way we can know what we can bring to the table. But at the same time, we must do that with a holistic view of what is on the table otherwise also. So all these people have taught me how to respect different musical traditions and how to, have effective conversations with these kind of different musical traditions. And I'm very grateful for whatever जिसको मार्गदर्शन बोलते हैं, वो सबसे जरूरी है, because concerts, and we have to pay the bills, so we have to handle our career and make sure that we are out there performing. But the most important thing in life, and this is the source where you derive the maximum joy, is the process of discovering something new every day. And that is the process I cherish and enjoy the most in my life.
Excellent. You put the whole thing into a nutshell, and you mentioned about the various collaborative engagements that you have had, both with the percussion artists like Anindoji, Zakir Bhai, and then with the
Ji,
vocalist Shankar Mahadevanji, then Louis Bank, the keyboard, then the
ji,
drums, Ranjit Barot. So this gives you kind of a 360-degree evolution of good music. But I
ji.
like the most what you said, that rather than being constrained by your tradition, you use the tradition as a strength, as the core, to give it different, upach when you're on the stage. You try
Absolutely.
to discover yourself in a new perspective, given
Hmm.
that core value. So
Yeah, and the
every
thing is,
concert, yeah,
sir, if I may interrupt for a second,
yeah.
हम लोग जब music सुनते हैं ना, the way we listen to music is very important. I want to say this for all, because I see a lot of people. I just saw that Vijay Yashudas, who's a very close friend of my wife's and mine also, he's just joined the live. So I just want to say this for all of you who are aspiring musicians, or those of you, all of us are aspiring musicians. So the way you listen to music, when I listen to Amjad Ali Khan Sahab play the sarod, I look at the way he approaches the depth of the swaras. When I listen to Pandit Hariprasad Chaurasia ji, I listen to, when I've heard his Pahadi, I've heard his Jhinjoti, उसमें जो raw appeal है for the notes. So you have to find what to listen for. When I listen to Carnatic music, when I listen to U Srinivas ji, when I listen to even when I listen to Tal Shastra, if I listen to Palni Velji, or then I'm fascinated by it all.
Very true. After all, it's a music is a language of exchange.
Ji.
You exchange a lot of ideas, you take a lot of ideas from all around you, and
Right, sir.
every artist has one point which puts them separately from the rest. So
Ji.
that aspect, if you are able to identify as an aspiring musician and try to emulate them for that particular aspect, like you very rightly said, Harij is that rawness in whether it is Pahadi or Jinjoti. Every time he would play that raga, there is a new element in that. Maybe he would have played
Absolutely.
it 10,000 times, but
Yeah.
every next time when he plays that Pahadi, in that Pahadi, there is one aspect which he suddenly touches, and that some
Yes.
kind of engulfs you and engages you. And
Yeah.
as an aspiring musician, if you are able to touch that and try to emulate it in your instrument into your own expressions, whether you are a
Ji.
singer or whether you are a player or what have you. And that is what enriches you day in and day out. Now, I want to
Absolutely.
come to a slightly, I don't want to call it controversial, but I think it's a statement of fact that today there is an existential crisis. There are certain artists who are very event based. They do a lot of events, live events with a live audience. And there are many artists who are equally evolved, who are equally good, but they engage more into the social media in terms of collaborations or in terms of fusions and in terms of studio kind of recordings. So there is a very pronounced difference between these two approaches to good music. One approach is you're constantly offering it to the live audience, and when the audience does wah, you're motivated, you're inspired further. Second is you play so well, but you have no connect with the direct audience. If you do a record, if you do a CD, if you do a label, and then offer it to the wild. Now, this, I think, in my personal view, this has a much bigger reach. Whereas the event-based artists have a reach which gets restricted over a period of time because it is very limited to the physical location of the events. So
Ji.
how do you, and in Purbayan Chatterjee, I see that you are in both the spaces. You are there in events, equally successful. You are there in the recordings, equally successful. So how did you manage this, and what is your perspective on this?
Well, I'm glad you have noticed, or you think that I'm trying to be of good service to the music. But the truth of the matter is, you've actually hit the nail on the head. The crux of the matter is to achieve a balance between. See, we live in a increasingly digital world. Now it is the world of metaverse and virtual concerts happening in metaverse, which are just concepts. And as much as it may be a little overwhelming to people who are new to all of it, but at the same time it is a reality, it is a trajectory in which the world is going. And if you don't if you stay away from that trajectory, it is totally your personal choice. I'm not going to judge that choice, but at the same time, I feel, for me personally, it is very important to go with the flow, to go with what is happening in the current world. I'm a very curious person, so I want to know, what it is like in the digital space, what it is like in the digital world, what opportunities, what possibilities are there, so that we can connect with people who love music in a different country or a different region or a different zone where I may never get the opportunity to go. But more than all of that, and at the same time, of course, nothing replaces the thrill and the joy of being live on stage with an audience sitting right in front of you, and so we want both of it. But I think for me, this whole pandemic, this COVID, has made me a little bit philosophical, made me soul search a little bit. I think it's very important to be in a sense of joy in whatever you do, whichever process you go down. Every day I try to find one thing that makes me happy. So if I want to, if there's nothing else in the day, I'll try and compose something and keep it in my voice notes. If there's nothing, I'll try to discover a new technique. And it's not because I'm going to play this at a concert, or I'm going to work on this technique, and I'll go to Royal Festival Hall and I'll perform and wow. No, you really don't need to think so much. Just the process of discovery is joyful. And that's it. And it may stay with me. I may pass it on to a few of my students, or few people with who I want to share this information. And that's about it. And once you conceive something, whether it's a new composition or a new idea, then it has its own destiny. It has its own life. It has its own trajectory that it follows. And you have to just be an observer and see what trajectory it takes.
Excellent way to analyze the situation. But I had a vested interest in asking this question of the very pronounced difference between the event-based presentations and the studio-based presentations, because we are a television channel. And for us, this is a big challenge. Now, when you have to present real live shows recorded and then shown on the TV, sometimes the audio fidelity, or for that matter, the visual fidelity, goes for a toss because it's not so well managed. Whereas when it is a studio related recording, you have a lot of opportunity to ensure that whatever finally you put into the can is very well managed, very well edited, and it sounds great, and the visual is also very good. So as a channel, we would always prefer something that is a studio material compared to something that is a live situation. But like you rightly said, the joy of meeting the audience, the joy of looking at the audience and their appreciation is something that can never be compensated. So while the real events do create that magic, but of late with the digital world, and like you rightly said, with the pandemic around us, people have shifted considerably from the real event situation to the recorded event situation. Now, whether there will be a go back or whether it is here to stay is a question which nobody can answer. But all said and done, for some musicians who have not joined this trajectory, like you said, you will simply get left out.
So the thing is, sir, I feel, I'm sorry I'm cutting short, but I feel I also need to go because I have my students waiting because it's Saraswati Puja. So I'll just try to sum it up in the best way possible. I feel, we should really look at what some of the bands in the West have achieved, like Snarky Puppy, for instance. They have got a Grammy for the recording of the live concert that they did at the Carnegie Hall, live at the Carnegie Hall, and it has been live at the Royal Albert Hall in London. They have recorded it live at the Royal Albert Hall. If you listen to the recording, the fidelity and the quality of it is beyond our imagination. And if we are able to, yes, and we need to, and there are some organizations who are doing fabulous work like Darbar Festival in the UK, who are looking at not only the quality of the music, of course, there is so many great musicians, but looking at the quality of production, looking at the quality of what we are putting out there. And we must achieve a balance between the two of them. And, and we can just try our best as a country. We have to see what kind of best resources we have at our disposal, because good production takes money. And that's what we must go. And with this, sir, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to talk to you on this auspicious day of Vasant Panchami. I'm sorry, but I have to say goodbye now because we've had extensive plans for Saraswati Puja, and I have to get back to that. But many heartfelt thanks and all the best always to InSync. We always watch. Sincere thanks to you for running a television channel like this, which serves the cause of Indian traditional music, and truly grateful for all that you do, sir.
Well, before I let you go, I want to extract a promise from you that this is part 1 of the Purbayan series, because there is
Absolutely,
so much to know from you. There is so much to extract out of you, and all this for the good cause of having good music. So this is part 1 of the series. Pleasure. So we are going to have this chat. There are many more aspects of your life, many more aspects of your musical journey, many more aspects of the instrument as well, because you have discovered a lot of new gadgets which are connected to the instrument. So all this needs to be explained to the normal public. So with that, Purbayanji, thank you very much for joining us this morning, and wish you all the very best. Sir. And we'll get back to you very soon. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Namaskar.
Thank you. Thank you.
Happy
Namaskar.
Saraswati Puja again. Bye bye.
Happy Saraswati.